Good afternoon and welcome to the Federal Executive Forum celebrating 17 years of profiling excellence in government IT mission programs. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss best practices with machine learning and artificial intelligence strategies in the federal government. With me on today's show are Dr. Gil Artrovich, Director, National Artificial Intelligence Institute, Department of Veterans Affairs, Ramesh Menon, Chief Technology Officer, Defense Intelligence Agency, Sri Ambati, founder of CEO H2O.ai, Nick Saki, Principal Technology Strategist, Pure Storage, and John Dillon, Chairman of the Board at Aerospike Corporation. Gil, we're going to start with you. Give us a state on what's happening in the artificial intelligence arena in regards to Veterans Affairs. And I want to say I'm so pleased to see what you all are doing for the veterans and for the veterans' families.
Great. Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me here. And we're really excited to talk about some of the items and some of the new efforts that are going on at the Department of Veterans Affairs and work we're doing toward the veterans in the AI and machine learning space. First, AI and machine learning really can be used to improve access to information. It can make it readily available and scalable. And in doing so, it's really going to make a fundamental change in the way we serve the veteran community by really enabling and empowering our workforce with high-end tools. As the largest integrated healthcare system in the country, the VA really has the capability to really help in serving its population. The people, the data, the infrastructure can really play a large role in that. And so the VA really has the potential now to lead in a number of these different areas. I think some of the areas that we see moving forward, trustworthy artificial intelligence, making sure that we maintain and the trust with the community, with this approach of using artificial intelligence. And so there are a number of new processes that are undergoing, that are being done now to ensure that. For example, there are these 9 principles of trustworthy artificial intelligence that were developed as part of an executive order, and we now have processes being developed to ensure that any artificial intelligence applications within the VA that will be developed will follow these 9 principles. There's work going on across a number of different offices. For example, under leadership of Samendra Paul, Chief Data Officer of the VA, the Data Governance Council is establishing structures and processes to work across different offices in a number of different aspects regarding the new VA data strategy. The VA also specifically has an AI strategy that came out this past October, and we're now working on the roadmap to implement that going forward. So there's a number. I would say that this is now a really exciting time in terms of like the possibilities, because we're now setting up the right structures, working across different offices at the VA to ensure that a scalable approach and one that is trustworthy and one that really benefits the veterans is established going forward.
Yeah, and it's a really sort of that whole bias issue around AI is super important, and the trustworthiness, the security around it, super important. So really do appreciate, again, everything that you're doing for all the veterans out there. Ramesh, how about at DIA? Tell us about the state about what's happening with AI and machine learning in regards to the Defense Intelligence Agency.
Thank you, Luke. So at DIA, what at least I was able to do is make it an agency strategy. So General Scott Barrier, our director, has defined a new strategy this year, and that is AI readiness. So I'm leading that strategy for the agency, and I had to do a couple of things. One, bring the people together across different mission areas, right? DI, DO, S&T, across, bring them together. And then we have three main goals within the DIA's AI strategy. We want to be AI ready by 2025, AI competitive by 2027, and AI mature by 2030, which is very much aligned to the National Security Council's recommendation to the Congress. And that's our primary big building blocks. And we're looking at different dimensions from talent, skills, platforms, tools, tradecraft, mission priorities, and most important, accelerate the collaboration with our allies and partners.
When you say mission ready, what does that mean? Just give us an example of that.
So multiple scenarios where a human and machine can work together. Where can AI accelerate our analyst? Where can we augment intelligence? Our foundational priority as DIA is foundational military intelligence. We provide intelligence to warfighters and decision makers, right? In terms of foreign military intelligence. So we need to really bring the best tools, capabilities, and platforms in achieving our mission. It could be two parts. One is typical intelligence, that what we provide to the president. There could be to the combatant commands. J2 combatant commands are our part of our ecosystem. So we provide them the intelligence so they can carry out their missions in more effective, meaningful manner. So it's basically leveraging the power of all source foundational military intelligence and getting into the hands of the warfighter so they can execute their mission in a responsible manner.
Got it. And you said liberating. I've heard democratizing. Sri, I think it's perfect timing for you, and welcome to the show. I know that you speak very fondly of that. Tell us about the state of the state from your perspective, what you see from H2O.AI.
Thanks for having us, Luke. We're super excited to kind of bring our mission to democratize AI to the federal and the government agencies and public sector. One of the, and bring our unique voice to this, to your audience. One of the most fundamental transformations that are happening across is data is becoming more and more liquid, and people are beginning to use data to make decisions. And AI is a truly transformative force for both as we come out of the pandemic and go into the new world, which pandemics and wars have historically coexisted. We need to be able to react to things much more faster and much more equitably, like Gil's comment around bias and inclusion. How do you try to kind of prevent kind of inadvertent use of historical decision making and bring more transparency to AI, more trustworthy AI. We started with open source, which gives the most freedom. And we have a mission to make our customers AI companies. Historically, we did very well in the commercial side of the industry side. And our mission now is to make every agency an AI first agency in the US and make the country an AI first nation. And the way that starts is through a lot of education, a lot of simplification. Sort of, some of the most common problems in AI are actually boring time series problems, whether it's a predictive maintenance, you're looking at the largest vehicles, how do they fall apart, how do they fail, predictively adapting systems for it, to reducing fraud, waste, and abuse, especially in the hospitals. How can we kind of personalize care? How do we, at the same time, look at public health? How do we start planning hospitals for capacity? And what elective procedures are going to be more in demand with COVID, long COVID? How do we start looking at rolling out matching the patients to the right clinics with referral? Even today, the world runs on faxes. So how do we start using image and NLP to start matching the right cancer patient with the right kind of physician? All of these problems are simple AI problems that can be operationalized. The accuracy of AI has never been this good before over the last 100 years. That AI has been trying to be valuable, meaningful. I think now we have more accurate AI. What we do want to make sure is it's in the hands of the right people. It's in the hands of validation of the models has to be continuous. so you can explain, not and interpret the models. The beginning of federated AI is coming, where we can make intelligence possible on the edge. So you don't have to centralize. Multi-cloud, we have AI cloud, which allows reusability as well as repeatability in AI. A use case in one portion of the organization can help transform the entire organization, not just one corner. Usually you have AI superpowers in one part of the agency. We want to get that to across different agencies as well, and learn from the use cases. A lot of financial our use cases are typically in loans, PPE loans, or what happened with the kind of during the pandemic response. We have a huge focus on how to kind of empower our agencies to be world's foremost and digital first. The biggest interestingly, AI is no longer as much of a technological challenge as a cultural transformation. The agility of decision making in organizations needs to go alongside how AI is bringing more and more value. And I think while technology and data are ubiquitous now, the courage to act on what the models are telling is still scarce. So I think getting kind of top-down and bottom-up grassroots alignment across agencies is going to be super important.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Interesting perspectives there. Nick, how about at Pure Storage? It's not really even pure storage, it's pure access is the way I think the way you phrase it. And I really like that phrase, coupled very tightly with the AI community. Give us the state of the state, Nick.
Well, we're seeing a lot of customers really designing and adopting platforms for leveraging data at the massive scale that artificial intelligence demands. We've had tremendous success over the past 5 or 6 years with our artificial intelligence ready infrastructure. Adopting within the federal government has been pretty substantial as they reach for a set of tools that will enable them to leverage and improve the processes for these new capabilities, particularly at Project Maven in the DoD, at the Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane with their artificial intelligence service catalog, at the National Institute of Health, and of course within the intelligence community as well. So what we've seen many people understand is that the initial experimentation with infrastructure to support artificial intelligence training, development, and deployment soon start to require dedicated capability that's capable of delivering that data service and leveraging that data at the massive scale of really what's akin to classic supercomputing design, where you have thousands and thousands of processes continually revisiting data or operating against newly ingested data. And that's critical to training with artificial intelligence algorithms. More data is better, but more data starts to impose its own set of unique challenges within an artificial intelligence training and development environment. So that's what we've been focused on at Pure, is how do we provide the capability for agencies and our commercial customers for getting the most out of the massive quantities of the data that they have and shortening that development cycle from initial algorithm programming ultimately to deployment and retraining.
A lot of data out there, so critical to unlock it and make it an efficient way to access and develop against it. John, how about at Aerospike? First, tell us, what is Aerospike? How does that fit into this ecosystem? Tell us about the state of the state.
Well, Aerospike is a hyperscale data platform. And what it does in this whole topic we're discussing with AI and machine learning, if we go back and think about how organizations make decisions, it used to be people speed and people scale. Today, it's machine speed and machine scale. And frankly, whether you're a civil agency or a defense agency or part of the IC, the reality is there's massive amounts of data. And when you think about artificial intelligence, machine learning, ultimately, it's about making better decisions with the contextual information that you've got available. And the contextual information changes constantly. So if you think about, in military parlance, the OTA loop, the thing has been compressed into machine speed, machine scale. So the first problem you've got is massive ingestion of data. We've got clients that are ingesting 10 and 20 terabytes a second, going into a dynamic database where the information is changed. And what you want to do is make decisions based on the current situational awareness. So you've got to then extract information from the data you have, if you will, predictive intelligence, analysis, deep learning, those things. But then the issue is you have to push it back to the edge where it can be made relevant in real time, whether you're you're a veteran and you're using a VA site, you want to have that sense of intimacy where you're doing a better job. In essence, what we talk about when we try to explain this in simple terms is what we do is empower the ability for the inference engine to make the next best decision. And they do that in many cases, sometimes thousands of times a second. And the amount of information you can bring to bear to reduce the amount of uncertainty in a decision allows better decisions. And better decisions, if they're small, don't make a difference, but they do make a difference if you're doing thousands of them a day, thousands of them an hour, thousands of them a minute. We empower that.
Fantastic. Great use case, great example. And speaking of use cases, Sri, I want to go back to you. You gave us a lot of information there in a broad context. Can I ask you to give us a specific example of a program that you'd like to highlight to give the audience sort of a good insight as to a good use case of the AI capabilities?
I think one of the things that we all know that we're seeing a lot of change in how extreme adverse weather events are happening. And so one of the things we were able to predict is hurricanes, right? So, and exactly pinpoint down to which telephone pole is likely to get hit by flooding. And so using that metaphor, we're able to essentially, using that prediction, we're able to, even weeks in advance, let the local organizations prepare from supply chain disruption that's likely to come from extreme weather events like wildfires and hurricanes. And the interesting aspect of supply chain disruption, as you can imagine, in the last 2 years, both during the pandemic and now with the war, we're seeing a tremendous shifts in what used to be acceptable levels of distribution and how to kind of truly make sure every package that needs to be delivered gets delivered on time and with the right level of quality. So we've been working with both the civil and the public agencies to try to give them how much of PPE they need during the pandemic, to how much hand wash they need in different parts of the country, to all the way till how much drugs are needed at the ICU level to prevent ICU transfers, and kind of truly prepare our nation to have just-in-time supplies for the right things at the right time. And this end-to-end, it used to be these were simple problems. Now, given the complex chain of interconnections that we have created digitally, the information is how people are able to rapidly adapt. So the connection between events and supplies, and how do we kind of enable our nation to be really prepared for that rapid demand sensing and forecasting is at the heart. Another common use case we see is fraud, waste, and abuse, where we see claims come in to hospitals, and we want to make sure they don't get buried in documents. And so using documents to document AI, pre-built models that need to be trained on the local corpus. So pre-built models, and now make sure that you don't have to build the world context every time, but then train it on the local corpus of data for each agency, so we get that accuracy quickly. Low code, no code methods are what we have created. We have the world's largest data science grandmasters at H2O. What we've done is use their digitized how they're solving these problems and make them available as tool chain and platforms for our customers.
Super interesting use cases. We're going to take a short break and we're going to be right back. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.